Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Rare on Air Stories. In this weekly series, we will shine a light on the stories of people living with a rare disease. I'm your host, Lise Pernin, and in today's episode, we will hear Becky's story.
My name is Becky. I live in the UK and I am married to my wonderful husband, Carl. We have 3 children, Isabella, aged 4, Joshua, aged 2, and Avery, aged 1. Myself and my 2 youngest children share a rare chromosome disorder called Koolen-de Vries syndrome. My son and I received our joint diagnosis 14 months after his birth in 2021, and Avery's was confirmed in 2022. After initially being blindsided by guilt that my children had inherited a lifelong disorder from me, I chose instead to have gratitude that I can be a role model, support, strength, and comfort them when nobody else can. I offer them strength in being an example of a life filled with passion, purpose, and joy, so they will always have hope for what is possible for them to enjoy and achieve in life. I do this by not only celebrating, but being secure in what makes me the same as them and different to the norm, and I encourage them to follow suit. I know the mental, emotional, and social struggles that having a rare disorder can bring. I've been the child that was the target of bullies in the playground and felt stupid in the classroom for what I couldn't learn the same as my peers. That means I can offer them compassion and understanding when they meet others who don't value who they are or how they operate. Also, I get to teach them the value and necessity of loving and appreciating who they are, even when others don't. My children both receive physiotherapy, and my son is having speech and language therapy too. They both have developmental delay due to KDVS, but in their own unique ways of loving life and absolutely thriving, it is an enormous joy to see. They both have developmental delays due to KDVS, but they both have their unique ways of loving life and absolutely thriving, which is an enormous joy to see. They are smiley, happy, and playful kids, and I'm celebrating each and every inch of their progress. I once wanted more than anything to just fit in and be accepted as one of the crowd. Now I care about being authentically me above all else. After always having a deep sense that I am not like the majority of people, being diagnosed with Koolen-de Vries felt like my permission to embrace it, as it revealed that I am genetically different, same as my 2 youngest children, and it was then down to me to decide what kind of example I wanted to set for me and for my children to look up to. My advocacy is a very important part of what I want my children to witness, as from a very young age, during my time in special needs classes for English, I developed my love of writing. My hope is that my kids will also discover the thing that they love to do, and that it will be a support and bring them great enjoyment, especially when the world feels lonely. I always had a sense of achievement at school when reading and writing, as I was good at it, and it was the only class I truly looked forward to. Even now, I feel much the same. I am not naturally academic or practically minded and have to work very hard at being organised. That said, what does come naturally to me is my desire to encourage through writing. I love to offer hope to the world through my stories, as there was a time I had very little of that, feeling on the outside looking in with nothing of value to give. That thinking has been radically transformed, and I am now confident that I do offer something very helpful in sharing mine and my family's journeys with all the lessons I am learning along the way. I will always support all 3 of my children to find what lights them up inside and to express it wholeheartedly, as for me, it has changed who I am and how I live for the better. When my kids watch their mama living with Koolen-de Vries syndrome, I want them to feel hopeful, supported, and encouraged that their differences can be their strength if they let it. That's not to say they will never be challenged or life won't be extremely hard at times, as it most definitely will, but it helps going through it as who you are. What I want rare parents especially to take away from this story is what feels like the breaking of you to begin with. Hearing you passed on a rare disease to your children can actually be the making of you. By choosing not to let your rare disease define you, and instead defining for yourself what your diagnosis means for you and for your family, you can show your kids and the world that being rare is a strength to be celebrated.
You have been listening to an episode of Rare on Air Stories, a weekly bonus series of Rare on Air, a monthly podcast by Eurordis Rare Diseases Europe. Thank you for joining us. Until next time, you can listen to one of our weekly episodes that are published throughout the Rare Disease Day campaign. If you would like us to feature your story in this podcast and on our social media channels, don't hesitate to submit it on our website. Make sure to subscribe.